The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday.
Before a long weekend.
Don't forget, no show Monday.
No show on Monday.
Memorial Day, and remember what Memorial Day is about.
That's right. And for you people who were a little depressed yesterday, the Lou Pereira show has gone off the air, so he won't be on singing When You're Smiling anymore on Thursday nights for you. So, Lou, you're going to be missed. Thank you for all the years of your show. I'm sure that the viewers loved you. So, go and right down to business.
Right down.
Business group saying mum on the sales tax proposal so far.
So far, yeah. But it also says in the article that they're facing proposals that would raise the minimum wage, mandate paid family and medical leave for workers, and raise taxes on business owners that would make $1 million or more a year on a cost. But heaven forbid our legislature, who gave themselves a tremendous pay raise, take into consideration that small businesses with a tax holiday do see a tremendous increase in their business. And heaven forbid that, you know, they even consider lowering the sales tax, which is going to be on the ballot.
Well, we're hoping it's going to be on the ballot.
Well, we're hoping. And even if it is on the ballot, it was on the ballot once before.
Well, this is a binding referendum. So if this is on the ballot, you know the people are going to vote yes to drop the sales tax to 5% and to create a sales tax holiday every year. The problem is they've already come out with the propaganda saying that if you do this, we're going to cut the money to schools and to city governments.
Good. Maybe they'll actually have to tighten their belts, but they won't. They won't get rid of their political appointees. They'll start threatening essential services again. As we said, we just went over the top 100 earners in the school department, most of whom are administrators. And, you know, we've got probably the highest percentage of administrators to teachers in the Commonwealth. So, you know, they always find a way to spend your money. The Democratic House and Senate in this state have abused the taxpayers so badly under the guise of, oh, yeah, well, we're going to mandate, increase the minimum wage, increase this, and then you forget who's paying the bill. Now, granted, you know, there's nobody more anti-major greedy corporations than I am that move all their workers out to third world countries as Phillips Lighting did. But when you get small businesses that are located in your hometown who employ people from your hometown, and those people are not making that much, I truly believe they need to get a little bit more money. But you also have to have a balance here. We also have to realize that we have to give some of these people something like a tax holiday or a reduced sales tax to stimulate the economy so they can make enough money to pay these new benefits. Because, look, small businesses are not major corporations. They don't get to make hundreds of millions of dollars, and in some cases billions of dollars, and pay zero taxes. And in many cases, like General Electric did a few years ago, get $265 million back and pay no taxes. So we see it every day with these major corporations, but, you know, our legislature, as our city government, has absolutely a total disregard for the working people. And it's every time they do stuff like this, it's just throwing not, you know, a 55-gallon drum of salt in the wound, not just a few sprinkles. But they're dumping a ton of salt in the wound as they run off to collect their stipends and their pay raises.
And what did Milton Friedman say about taxes?
Yeah, if you give them the Sahara Desert, They'll run out of sand, and all taxes are regressive.
That's it.
They do not help the economy. Not only Milton Friedman, Winston Churchill, a whole ton of other economists, business people. We all know that taxation is, unfortunately, a necessary evil in
It
today's
created a
society.
revolution.
But remember, taxation has to be minimal in order to keep the, it's a very tight balance. And the reality is that look at what our tax rate, look what our tax money goes for on all levels. We're sending billions of dollars overseas to countries excuse me, that don't really care about the United States. We're spending billions in foreign aid. We've got we've got children that don't get adequate food. It's just unconscionable.
And schools are throwing the meals out.
Yeah, and they throw the meals out and they give them a cheese sandwich. I mean, it's just, you know, it's unbelievable. Who would have thought 20 years ago that we would have, excuse me, I got a tickle now. But who would have thought that we would have devolved, not evolved, devolved to this particular, you know, this society's just, it's just going to hell in a handbasket.
Yep. So the Massachusetts Senate, in passing the budget, added an amendment to it. They added the sanctuary state amendment to it to make Massachusetts a sanctuary state. Senator Mike Rodrigues did not vote for it. Surprisingly, I got to give him credit. So, Mike, congratulations. You didn't vote for that.
Hey, even a broken clock's right twice a day.
And Mark Montigny, Senator Mark Montigny from New Bedford, he voted for it. And what does Governor Charlie Baker says? He'll veto the Senate immigration amendment. Look at that.
Absolutely. And you know something, you know, it's disgusting. You know, the states will go begging to the feds for all kinds of money, but then they'll ignore the laws of the country. As far as I'm concerned, you want to be a sanctuary city, a sanctuary state, you get no money.
I agree.
You want to be a sanctuary city, you get no money from the state. Pick up all your bills, because you know who's going to pick up the bills when we get all these undocumenteds in, who really don't contribute to the economy. They work for minimum wage, or they're on assistance or whatever. You don't find too many undocumented doctors and lawyers. You may find an occasional one whose visa lapsed or something, but you don't find them. They're a drain on the economy, and who pays to make up for these things? We do, the taxpayer. You want to be a sanctuary city? No money from the state for anything, schools, anything. You want to be a sanctuary state? You get no money from the feds. No money for highways, no money for anything. You apply for federal grants. We have a hurricane that disseminates Massachusetts. Don't go running to Washington saying, I want disaster aid, because if you know you should get the you know what finger from the federal government. If you want to ignore the laws of this country, which to me is absurd, because look, our Constitution says that, you know, it's a Constitution. It's not discretionary, as Joe Macy would have us think on anything that's political. It's discretionary for politicians. Anything that will get them some political traction with minority groups or immigrant groups that have some voter representation, they'll jump on it because they don't care about the effect on a taxpayer. Because guess what? They're being paid by the taxpayer. Every single dime they get, and probably every one of their living relatives, is getting a paycheck from the public trough. They don't care. You want to be a sanctuary city? Get no money for it. Fine. I've always been pro-choice. If you want to do something, it's just like when people were anti-casino, anti-strip. Look, if you're 21 and want to waste all your money on a casino or in a strip joint, well, learn from your bad decisions, because then you'll be on the corner with a paper cup trying to collect money. But the fact is that this is just ridiculous. You know, our legislature is trying this kind of political posturing and political maneuvering for a little bit of traction, saying how sensitive they are, while they don't give you, the taxpayer, a sales tax holiday. And CJ, I hate to kind of like semi-disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. If it's a binding, it's supposed to be binding. But I don't believe our legislature even believes anything's binding.
That's true.
Remember when we voted to have judges elected and they went to the Supreme Court of Massachusetts, all of whom's justices are appointed by politicians, and amazingly enough, the Supreme Court said, oh, no, you can't do that. You can't elect us because we might not, which there's another story about a ridiculous court decision, which we'll get to later. We'll be able to play politics for the rest of our life, stick our head in a giant trough, get a six-figure pension, and then get a part-time job in Fall River for $105,000.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, I mean, you know, if this doesn't drive you crazy, I don't know what will. You know, if you're just a regular taxpayer, a regular working person, you know, it's gotten to the point where, like I said, I equate it to the Roman Empire. All we've become is this giant hedonistic society. All we do is something to make us feel good, and the hell with everything else. And in the process, the very fabric of this nation is beginning to unravel, just like the Roman Empire did. So.
Well, I mean, look, you just have to look. As you know, the Supreme Court ruled that sports betting is legal.
Yeah.
Okay? But in Massachusetts, it's not. Massachusetts, it's not legal. Neither in Rhode Island. They need time to study it.
Yeah, which is a political code word to figure out how they can create committees and jobs that they can put all their friends in.
Exactly.
That's the problem. If you go to Vegas, a sports book is a sports book. There's companies that run sports books. Casinos run sports books. But
right.
Casinos hire people that'll work. Now, if you're it's going to be in Massachusetts, it's going to be state regulated, which means it's going to be another employment opportunity for all the people in their families that can't get a job based on their qualifications. So they have to study it.
Like Fall River.
Yeah, they have to study it. And you know, I talked about the Roman Empire, and there's a quote, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't like to say it's a quote exactly because I don't have it in front of me and I don't want to look it up right now. There was a quote by Theodore Roosevelt, one of my favorite presidents, who had a lot of quotes that I like there's no such thing as a hyphenated American, and you have to be an American first. But Theodore Roosevelt talked about the demise of the Roman Empire, and he said the Roman Empire began to unravel when the citizens of Rome stopped voting. And it was true, just like in the United States. 25, 30 years ago, we had 75%, 80% turnouts. Now we get 18% turnouts. He talked about how the Roman Empire began to unravel when the people of the Roman Empire did not vote and participate in their government. They were too busy going to the Roman circus, watching people getting eaten by lions and having Roman orgies or whatever else they had. They became hedonistic. And you look at the United States, and it's like everything's a Me Too hashtag now. Because you get your own little group, you go off on a tangent, and you forget that this country was created to be a melting pot. It's exact opposite today. This is not a melting pot anymore. Everybody comes here and they want to keep their country here. I don't care what nationality they are, they want it to be separate. They want to have Ireland here, and as Teddy said, there's no such thing as a hyphenated American, and he also said some of the greatest Americans I ever knew were naturalized Americans. But when you come to America, you should be an American. And you should have your loyalty should lie. You can be proud of your ethnicity, but you're an American. And now everybody that comes to America, they form their own group, and they don't assimilate into the society. And that's one of the problems we're having in the United States today. Years ago, when the Irish came, what did they have? On barroom doors, they had no dogs or Irishmen allowed. When the Chinese came to build the railroads, they were ostracized. When the Italians came here, when every ethnic group came to the United States, they were forced to live in neighborhoods that were predominantly their own ethnicity because they couldn't communicate. But then, because they had to, they ultimately assimilated into the society the right way. They became citizens, they voted. Look at the Irish. They ended up taking over New York, Tammany Hall. They registered everybody to vote. They voted a whole bunch of Irish politicians in. They all got jobs, and they became, down came the signs, no dogs and Irishmen. They assimilated into our society. Today, there's no assimilation. In order to be a melting pot, you have to have assimilation, but there's none anymore. This country is going in a 180-degree different direction, and that's one of the primary problems we have.
Well, you know, you're right.
And that's just my opinion. So, just to qualify that, because I don't want some sociologist coming up to me and trying to explain it. And anybody who does, if you're a sociologist, I'll leave you with this one word: ethnocentrism.
That's it.
And as a sociologist, you should know what that means.
Well, as many of our viewers will remember, I hope, we spoke about what's going to happen with Brighton Point Power Plant.
Yeah.
Well, it might not happen now. They're not going to use it for wind energy because the company that wanted it was Bay State Wind, which was a partnership, 50-50 partnership between Eversource and Danish energy company Ørsted. Well, they were shut out of the Massachusetts energy bid market, and they were shut out of the Rhode Island one. So they don't have any wind energy. So deep water wind is deep water no more, at least at this point in time. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm sure Representative Pat Haddad's going bananas trying to figure out what they're going to do with that power plant now for Somerset.
Well, again, the Massachusetts and Rhode Island political systems, two of the most heinously corrupt political systems in the nation, again, stick their nose into everything, because in Massachusetts, you have to regulate everything. And they have to get into it and create committees and everything else. But when the ultimate reason for that is to give somebody a job somewhere, some committee, something. So.
Oh, I hear you.
But again, sports book, which, by the way, Gina Raimondo had, what, $23 million in the budget already earmarked?
Yeah.
And I think that was a very conservative estimate.
I think so, too.
I think it was a very conservative. But, the hell with it. Who needs $23 million in the budget? The hell with it.
It's only $23 million.
But I'll tell you what, we're going to have marijuana places all over Fall River, for sure. That they'll make sure they get, but sports books, the hell with it,
I hear you. Hey, the Tiverton Casino's ahead of track here.
Well, good news.
They're ahead of schedule.
Me, anyway.
So they're going to open a month earlier. So now they're talking about September, I guess.
Yeah, I thought they were going to open.
Yeah, they're going to open September 1st instead of October 1st, a whole month in advance.
Yep.
So.
Wow, a building on time. And early. Yeah, just like in Vegas, when you you watch those, tremendously gigantic casinos. There was a period once when I went to Vegas 4 times in 1 year, and every single time I went there was a new casino opening that had been built in a year and a half. And I'm talking about, immense places, immense. They're like small cities. They have shopping malls and stores and 9 restaurants, buffets, food courts, you name it, they got it. Anything your heart desires to keep you in that casino. But you look at it, it's just, and you look at them, and some of those casinos, like Caesar's Palace, have been around for eons. They're well maintained, they last, unlike public buildings.
In Fall River.
So, but it's good to see it at the casino, because it'll be a big help to Tiverton and their taxpayers. And kudos to you, Tiverton and Tiverton taxpayers. It's hopefully you'll get your relief, but keep a very, very close eye on how that money is used, and I hope you will, because it's small town, people are more involved. Because just remember what happened to Atlantic City. The gambling brought in hundreds of millions, billions of dollars over the course of the gambling, but the politicians misspent that money. The Atlantic City politicians and the state of New Jersey's politicians mismanaged that money, and Atlantic City's never improved a bit as far as the living conditions, even though that place brought in billions of dollars of revenue. Money is only good if you use it wisely. It's kind of like Fall River. We keep paying more and more taxes and more fees, and what do we get? Virtually nothing. We get a lot of new jobs for friends and relatives. We make a lot of trips to Gay Paris to find out the train, so now we can have a bicycle. We can have bicycle rentals. I guess that's one of the big ideas he needed to go to Europe to figure out that you can rent bicycles. And, you know, but then again, hey, who's going to rent a bike in Fall River?
They'll steal it first.
Yeah, they'll probably steal it. And if they don't steal it and they rent it, the only positive on that is they might not hit you when they shoot at you because you're moving a little faster on a bicycle than you can run. So, I mean, look, talk about total lunacy. I mean, some of these ideas are they just don't translate well into.
But, you know, and he wants to have an intermodal transportation center. The problem is that the place where the parking lot was supposed to be for that has been sold. And it's now an office building. So where are they going to park? Because there's no parking where they want to put the T station. No parking at all. Which makes absolutely no sense. But then again, this is Fall River.
Yeah.
So.
But intermodal, I don't care what you call it. You can give it a fancy name. It's not going to do any good. They're going to use the T to get out of Fall River, not come to. What do you think? All the yuppies from Newton are going to jump on a T to come down to Fall River to get shot at?
Yeah, why not?
To dodge cigarette butts and needles in the gutters? Oh yeah, I mean, this is going to be tremendous. And as I said, this isn't Europe. People in this country it'll take decades. And the only way to ever get people, and the reality is, necessity is the mother of invention. They didn't come up with these adages because they're not fundamentally true. Let gas go up to $8 or $10 a gallon like it is in Europe, and then people will begin to use more public transportation.
Yeah, of course.
Because they just flat can't afford it.
They're already complaining now because it's almost $3.
The Europeans aren't that much more sophisticated than we are when it comes to public transportation. It was a necessity. They were paying $5 or $6 a gallon for gas in the 1960s. Of course they have to use motor scooters and bicycles and trains because the only time they ever get in a car maybe is like once a year. It's like people who live in inner city New York. I had some friends that lived in Manhattan. They had a car. They used the car twice a year when they went on vacation. It stayed in the garage for the rest of the time. They're not gonna drive a car around New York City. And pay the exorbitant parking fees and
right.
So you know it's a matter of necessity. People use transportation. You think it's nicer to be stuck on a bus or a train with a bunch of people that maybe some of them, especially in Fall River, haven't showered in a while. And the thing is that rather than getting your own car and turn on the air conditioning and drive, no. The bottom line is as long as there's no economic necessity, this culture will not adapt to those things because Europe didn't adapt to those things without having a gun to their head, and that gun to their head was exorbitant gas prices.
Amazing.
So.
Well, Mayor Carrera announced that the Patriots are donating a playground to Fall River.
So we're going to take the money that we're going to give some neighborhood group to make that playground and give it back to the taxpayers? My vote is absolutely not. Somebody will get another stipend.
Well, here's what's happening. The Patriots Charitable Foundation, the New England Patriots Charitable Foundation, is donating a playground to Maplewood Park. This is a picture of what they're proposing. Try to bring you a bigger picture there. There you go. That's the picture they're proposing.
Yeah.
But the city's still going to be paying $100,000. It's a free park, free playground equipment, but we got to pay $100,000 because there isn't a swing set, and it has to have a swing set.
Yeah, well, you know, it's nice that the Patriots, you know,
I appreciate what the Patriots are doing.
It's nice. They're very, you know, Bob Kraft is very altruistic. He's got plenty of money, and he's very altruistic. He helps people, which is great. But you know, let's continue that theme. Can we get the mayor and the city council to give the taxpayers a break? Can they be a little bit
nuts?
more? Yeah, you're right. I am. I'm sorry. I gotta go take a pill because that's absurd. But then again, as we talk about ridiculousness, well, let's use the headline that says ridiculous on it, right? Massachusetts Governor Charlie Baker blasts Judge Timothy Feely for ridiculous court decision. He allowed a drug dealer to basically just walk and didn't incarcerate him, and it just said he was simply dealing death to make money, and I think for Judge Feely to blow that off and let him go was a terrible decision. It's more than a terrible decision, because you know something, there were people talking about prosecuting drug dealers who sell drugs that kill people. So do you think that we could also put an amendment, if that thing ever gets passed, that any judge who allows a drug dealer not to be incarcerated, lets him go, will also be prosecuted with that drug dealer for an accessory to murder?
Now, there's an idea.
Now, that sounds reasonable to me.
There's an idea. Well, did you read the story about the other judge that they've suspended indefinitely?
Oh, yeah.
Estes? Because he was having sex with a court employee, and the Supreme Judicial Court suspended him indefinitely and said that it affects the credibility and the trust in the judicial system.
Like decisions like this don't affect the credibility of our judge. And how many times has this happened? As a matter of fact, last night on the local news, I saw a picture of that. I believe she was 7 years old. The girl that was in a hospital that was hit by a drunken driver.
Yes.
While she was riding her scooter on the sidewalk, and it showed he mowed her down, took a fence down, and this was his second offense. And we've seen other times when it's their third, fourth, fifth offense, and they're allowed to go. You know, judges in this state, I'm a firm believer.
But that's also the state legislature's
Number
problem.
one, they should be elected, and secondly, when they let somebody like this go with no penalty, and they do it again, they should be prosecuted as accessories. Try to drive drunk in Japan. Last time I checked, you got 10 years.
But again,
you know how many cases of drunken driving they get? Now, first offense, you lose your license for life. If you get caught driving again, you get a 10-year sentence. And a Japanese jail is not a fun place to be.
No,
but
it's
again, you know, it's all about screw the taxpayer, give everybody that can vote for you a break, and then try to do stuff like this. And Charlie, I don't agree with everything you do, but you know something? Veto that amendment.
I'm sure he will.
I want this to be a sanctuary state for taxpayers.
Good luck on that one. Good luck on that one.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up to the end of our show, and I'm quite sure everyone's going to enjoy their Memorial Day weekend. Please remember what it's about.
That's right.
And please, drive carefully this weekend, and remember, stay angry.
And
we'll see you on Wednesday.
Thank you to all those military personnel who served and are serving, and especially those on Memorial Day who made the ultimate sacrifice for their country.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great weekend.